Hi guys, welcome to Azure Content. This is part 7 in Azure Data Factory Real-Time Scenarios playlist. In this video, we are going to learn how to get the list of empty and non-empty ADLS folders using ADF pipelines. So let's see our requirement in details. So as you can see in the first image, these are the folders present in our ADLS account, that is Azure Data Lake Storage. So in these folders, there can be some files, okay, or there can be some subfolders present in these folders, okay, and there can be few folders which are empty, okay, it doesn't contain anything, any file or any subfolder. So we have to segregate the empty and non-empty folders. If any of the folders is empty, then we need to get the name of this folder and we need to store it in an array inside this column called empty folder in our SQL table, okay. Similarly, if there is any non-empty folder, okay, if it has some files or subfolders, then this will be a non-empty folder. So it should come as an item of an array in non-empty folder column, okay. So like this, we have to prepare the list of empty and non-empty folders and we have to load it into our SQL table, okay. So let's see how to do this using ADF pipeline. So let me go to Azure portal and let me show you all the folders that we have. So you can see some of the folders are having files like this. ADLS input is having files, and then a new demo is empty, okay, it has no results, means it is empty folder. Similarly, container one is also empty, and there are other folders which are having subfolders and files, okay. So basically there are mixture of empty and non-empty folders, okay. So what will be our approach in order to find out which folders are empty and which are non-empty, and how to list down those folder names as a part of the array, and then how to load that array into our SQL column, right? So let's discuss about the steps that we need to perform so that we can understand the whole workflow of the pipeline that we are going to create, okay. So let me walk you through the steps first. So first of all, we will create a variable inside our pipeline. So we will create two variables. One is for empty folder and another will be for non-empty folder, okay. So these variables will be of array type, okay. Both of them will be of array type, okay. Then the first activity that we need to use is get metadata, so that we can list down all the folder names first, okay. So we will use something called get metadata activity, which will get us the list of all the folders. So suppose we have something like A, B, C, D, these are the folders present in our ADLS, okay. Then we will use for each activity that will iterate through each of these folders, and then inside this for each we will use another get metadata activity, so that suppose for this iteration, for the first iteration, it is running for folder A. So inside this folder A, what are the files present, okay. So suppose it has 1.csv, 2.csv, okay, something like this. So it is giving us this list of file names in an array, okay. So then we will use if activity, okay. Inside this if activity, we will put a condition: if this array, whatever is coming out of this get metadata activity, is empty or non-empty. So we will check for this condition. If it is empty, then we will go inside this true block, and if it is non-empty, we will go inside this false block, okay. So suppose for next iteration, for iteration B, that is for folder B, it is returning an empty array, so it will go inside this false activity, okay, that is false block. So for each iteration, this whole pipeline will run. So inside this true block, what we will do is we will use something called append variable. So what this append variable will do is it will update the value of a variable, whatever we are going to specify here, okay. So we will have this append variable in both true block and false block. So in the append variable activity of true block, we are going to update this empty folder variable, and in append variable of false block, we are going to update this non-empty folder variable, okay. So basically for each iteration, it will be checking if the folder is empty or not. So suppose for folder A, this is not empty, then it is going to append non-empty variable as this value, okay, as this value, Okay, and for next iteration, that is for folder B, it is going to update empty variable. So it is going to make this variable as this array of B. Okay, similarly for C, if it is an empty variable, if it is an empty folder, it is going to append in this array. Okay, and if it is non-empty, suppose D is non-empty, it is going to append in this this variable. Okay, so this is how we are going to list down the folder names and segregate it into two parts, empty and non-empty, and we are going to have the output as a array format. Okay, and then we are going to use copy activity outside this for each, so that we can load these variables as the SQL columns using something called additional columns. Okay, so let me make, so please don't get confused looking into this. We will practically create the pipeline, then you will be able to understand. Okay, so let me start creating the pipeline. So as we discussed, let me create two variables. One will be suppose empty folder and other will be non-empty folder variable, non-empty folder, and the type of variable should be array. Okay, so let me provide array as the type. Now we need to use get metadata activity to list down all the folder names present in our ADLS account. Okay, so to do that, let me create a data set pointing to my ADLS Gen 2 account, and let me use any of the formats, and let me select the linked service, and here we will not select anything because we are not going to point out to any one particular folder. Okay, so we are good, and here in the field list let me select child items. So now this will return us all the folder names present in our ADLS account. So let me run till this point. Yeah, so you can see execution is completed, and here inside this child items array we are getting all the folder names whatever is present in our ADLS account. Okay, now we have to iterate through each of these folders. So for that, let me use for each activity. Okay, and here in the settings I will provide get metadata output as the items inside for each. Okay, so as we have used child items, so here you can see child items is the property name where we are getting the array which contains the folder names. So that's why I am using this one, get metadata child items. Okay, now inside this for each we will use another get metadata activity so that we can get the file names present in each of these folders. Okay, so inside this setting let me create another data set pointing to my ADLS Gen 2. Let me select any of the format, and here we need to make this data set parameterized. Okay, so I am not defining any file path here. Let me click on OK, and then let me reopen this data set, and in this parameters tab let me create a parameter called folder name, and in this connection tab let me point to that parameter that we have created. Okay, and here we have to provide the value for that parameter. So our value will be nothing but item.name. Why? Because this child item we are treating as item inside this for each, and name is the property which is holding the folder name. So here we will be using item.name. Okay, so this will return us the folder name, and inside this field list we will again use child items so that we will get file names of each of these folders. Okay, so let me debug till this point, and let's wait for the activity execution to be completed. So you can see for each of the folders present inside our ADLS account, for each of these we are getting the file names. Okay, so you can see, and few folders are empty, so we should get empty array. Okay, so here we are getting the expected result. So our pipeline execution is completed. So you can see the number of get metadata 2 activity which has run here is equivalent to the number of folders that are present in our container. If we count it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let me see here, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, so for each of the folders iterations have been performed. Okay, so inside this for each, let me go back, and now we have to check if the folder or if the output of this get metadata is empty or not. So for that, let me use if condition. Okay, so let me connect these two activities, and inside this if condition we will check if the output of get metadata 2 is empty or not. So for that, let me use empty function, and we have to check the output of get metadata. So here in activity outputs, let me go for get metadata 2. Okay, dot output dot child items. So we are good. So if this returns true, which means if the folder is empty, then we will go inside true condition, and here we will use something called append variable, as we discussed. So this append variable, what it will do is it will append the folder names into the variables that we have created. So let me go inside this variables tab and let me select empty folder, because in true condition we are checking if the folder is empty, then go inside this. Okay, so here we will add on to the variable, that is we will be appending the folder name to the empty folder variable. So for that I will be using again @item dot name. Okay, so this is going to return us the folder name. Okay, similarly for false block we are going to use this append variable, and this time we will make changes into non-empty folder variable, and again we will use @item dot name. Okay, so this will create the list of all the non-empty folders. Okay, so we are good. Let's run till this point and wait for the pipeline execution to be completed. So our pipeline execution is completed. Now you can see for few folders append variable 1 has executed, and for few folders append variable 2 has executed. So if I open this, you can see container 1 has been added to empty folder variable. Okay, so let me check here, container 1, it should be empty. Yeah, it's having no results. So container 1 has been added to empty folder variable. Similarly, let me check append variable 2. You can see non-empty folder. Inside this array we will be having dev. Okay, so if I check dev, so we have few files and subfolders. So similarly for other folders also we have appended the value of folder name in the variable. Okay, now so now these two variables are ready, which means these two variables are holding the value, that is the array which contains the empty folder names and non-empty folder names respectively. Okay, now we have to load that variable value into our SQL table. So for that I'll be using copy activity. Okay, because to move the data we need to use copy activity. And here we don't actually have to load the data from some file or from some data store to the sink, right? We just have to take the variable value and load it into our SQL table. So there is no such option to load the variable value into some destination. So for that we will use some dummy file as a source, and then we will use SQL table as the sink. Okay, so I have one dummy file present in my account. Okay, if I open this demo folder, I have a dummy file which doesn't contain anything. It doesn't have any data, it just have one dummy column called column 1. Okay, so let me create a data set pointing to this file. Okay, let me point to this gen2 and let me use CSV as the format, and let me select the file path. So inside this demo folder we have this dummy file. Okay, let me import schema as well and hit on OK. And here we have something called additional columns. So let me select this, and what we can do is we can create additional columns that will be loaded to our sink. So we will be creating two columns. One will be empty folder and other will be non-empty folder. And here I will add dynamic content, and I will select each of the variables one by one. So For empty folder additional column, I will select this variable, empty folder variable. Okay, let me give curly braces so that it can be converted into proper string format, and similarly here I will select non-empty folder variable. Okay, and in the sink let me add a dataset pointing to my Azure SQL table, and I don't have a table created already, so let me use auto create table and let me give the table name that I want to give. So let me give something called new table. Okay, let me go back here, and in the mapping let me import schema, and while importing schema we need to give some value to these variables, okay, that we have added into our additional column. So as this is a array type, so I am giving just suppose 1, and here also just to import the schema we have to provide these dummy values. Okay, so let's wait. Now you can see the column coming from the source is this one. So let me delete this, we don't want to load it into our SQL table, and we have these two tables, but the destination column is not defined. Let me give it a proper name as empty folder, and here also let me give non-empty folder. Okay, so it looks good. Now let me run the whole pipeline and let's wait for this execution to be completed. Meanwhile, let me write down the query for selecting data from the new table. Okay, let's run this. Currently we don't have any such table, so it will give invalid object name. So let's wait for this execution to be completed. Yes, so the pipeline execution is completed, and if I see the copy activity input, you can see, so you can see empty folder and non-empty folder, two additional columns have been added and it has the proper value. So two folders are empty and others are non-empty. So the same should be loaded into our SQL table. So let's go to the SQL table and run this query again. So you can see the proper data has been loaded into two variables, into two columns, empty folder and non-empty folder. Okay, and we have already validated container 1 and unno demo is empty. If I reopen the same, container demo, container 1 and unno demo are empty. Other than that, everything is having the file and subfolder. Okay, so we are good. So let me go back to the presentation. So we have achieved this requirement, and you can see this was our expected output, and we have the same as in our SQL table. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. I hope you like the content. Please keep practicing these small use cases so that you'll be in touch with ADF if you want to switch into this career, and if you already working in this, then it's well and good. Please like the video and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it yet, and please hit the bell icon to get the notification whenever I add videos. Thank you so much. Please stay tuned.